Hello, my friends, live from Nashville. Sorry we're doing it at a slightly different time today. Schedule has been crazy here. We missed last week, but I got a session in a few hours, so I'm trying to fit this in so we can at least have some regularity as I travel around the world. I'll grab Jon here in a second.
Hey,
what is going on with that drop ceiling?
This is a writer room in Nashville. This is how Nashville rolls. I'm in Nashville. I'm somewhere deep in the depths of Nashville at a publishing company's building where they have lots of little writing studios. I'm really enjoying my time here. There's actually a bunch of cool questions about Nashville versus LA sessions, which maybe we can get to.
Nice.
But I appreciate you being able to jump on a half an hour early today.
Of course.
I didn't want to miss several weeks in a row.
Never want to do that.
Yeah, so it's good to be back on. But yeah, how are you doing, man? You got a haircut?
No, for the Grammys, but I just played tennis and showered, so it probably just looks, I don't know, who knows.
Also, haven't seen you in a couple of weeks, so maybe it was probably.
Yeah.
How was Vegas? How was the Grammys? Hey, what's up, Tizio?
What up, Tizio? Vegas was tight. I mean, it's a mind fuck being out there. It's another world, and I kind of despise it, but it was a good time. I'm more curious about your barbecue experiences since you've been down there. Honestly, that's what I wanted to ask you first. I don't want to forget to ask you that.
Okay, well, let's go. We'll talk a little Nashville stuff first. So
I need to hear some Nashville food stuff first right now.
So I kindly asked, I asked the Discord and kindly got many responses for where to go in Nashville. And the consensus or the spectrum was basically the two main places, Martin's and Edley's. And then there were a lot of people that said Martin's and Edley's are great. And also you're going to get that recommended. So also try a few of these others. And I haven't tried everything. I've tried 4 places. I tried Martin's, Edley's, Peg Leg Porker, and Central, which is in the North Gulch area or somewhere there.
Okay.
And they were all good in different ways, and different aspects of them were great for different reasons. I think Central had the best ribs. They all had great ribs.
I think I've eaten at Central. That's the only one that rings a bell for me, and the ribs were great.
Yeah, Edley's and Martin's were kind of the main spots. Edley's was fantastic, great brisket. Martin's was a show, had great sides. I mean, everything was really, really solid. I think the best pecan pie was at Edley's.
Okay.
I think the best mac and cheese actually might have been at Peg Leg Porker, but they're all just really good. I mean,
yeah,
everything was very solid. And I must say, for people in LA, none of them were like way better than Bloodso's, which is the LA spot, which is the dude who was in Compton, and then now it's on La Brea. Bloodso's in LA might have better brisket than all the rest of these places.
Nice.
But no shade.
LA barbecue shout out right there.
Yeah, I'm having a great time. Lots of barbecue, lots of great people. I've actually run into various people who've said hi, who watch the streams. Of course, Nashville is a great music town, so it's cool to run into some folks. And
I'm actually super bummed. So I used to love Adam Perry Lang. It was APL Steakhouse in Hollywood. Really lame location, but he was known for like 100+ dry aged steaks. But during the pandemic, to make it through, he was on Rogan. There was a big episode about how like the rent was so like, $30,000 a month to keep up that space, and he had to go down to him and one person just to do barbecue. His main thing is barbecue. Yeah. So during the pandemic, Spider and I and kind of the podcast crew, we would like get APL. And my girlfriend and I, we would order a lot of APL. And he officially closed like a couple of months ago. Couldn't make it through, but he did a pop up in Pasadena on Sunday. And I was just way too exhausted to go to it. It's been a long week and didn't get to go. But like, if anybody knows APL, that's another like LA staple of fine aged meats and barbecue style. It's so unique. But Bloodsoe is the kind of staple.
Bloodsoe is amazing. But yeah, so it's been great here in Nashville. It's been the weather's been insane and bizarre. It snowed outside the window of my session on Friday, and then Sunday it was like 78 and sunny and clear, and then it thunderstorm rained yesterday. I guess it's just the springtime in the South. You just never know what's going to happen. But it's totally insane. But I'm having a blast here. And a couple of people asked, maybe I'll just touch on it since we're talking about it. People talking about Nashville, LA, difference between Nashville and LA sessions, the turning around demos and things like that. And I've been here a few times and done some sessions here before, but the psychological and scheduling structure of Nashville is very different than LA. People who are here obviously know this, but people who don't, it's very much sort of a 9 to 5, or maybe more like 11 to 5. You write a song, you show up, you write a song, you get a demo, you send it off. Not many things are terribly heavily produced, since a lot of the big country artists have producers attached to their projects. So if you're just writing songs, it doesn't make sense to spend all the time on a production. Whereas in LA or elsewhere, oftentimes writing with the artist, or even writing for pitch, you're actually doing pretty much a full production, so somebody can just slot their vocals in. Like I think it is the case in Nashville for a lot of the big artists. Even if I did a full production, their producer might even just copy my production, and that's a whole nother thing that I think people, now that there's lots more laptop producers, I being one of them, so I'm literally here on a laptop making records. I sent off a mix yesterday, like I'm fully doing stuff on the laptop. I think it's something that Nashville is adjusting to a little bit, figuring out what that looks like, because at a certain point, if people are delivering demos that sound like full productions and then someone else is just copying all their programming, it gets a little iffy about who's doing what. But I think they're kind of grappling with that. But the expectation here is very much like 3 people get in a room, you write a song, you split it 3 ways, you get a demo at the end of the day, whatever it is, full song, then it gets sent out and pitched, and you just kind of do that routine, which is obviously very different than LA. I mean, there's sessions I'll do in LA where it's like, let's just throw together a bunch of ideas, because we might pitch it to an artist that then wants to finish it. They jump in. I guess there's some of that in Nashville, but not nearly as much traditionally. So I've had to adjust a little bit of like, what's the expectation? I'm talking to my manager and publisher, like, what's the expectation? Make sure I'm doing this right. I mean, that as we talk about with, whether you're from a songwriter to a mastering engineer or anywhere in between, understanding what the expectations of a project are, or what you're there to do, what people are expecting to get out of the day or out of the process, is really, really important. Obviously, we talk about it a lot, but it's something that even as a writer, which is mostly what I'm doing these couple of weeks, although I'm finishing productions outside of it because I'm working on other projects, always understanding what the expectations are is really important. It definitely is different in Nashville.
There's definitely a separation from my experience many years ago when I was writing, and also went to Nashville to do writing sessions. I guess things, basically what I'm getting from you is things really haven't changed, because historically it's just kind of how it's been. And there's a very clean line, I think as a positive, between people that write songs and people that produce songs. And in LA, that line has been blurred. A snare drum could,
just publishing,
writing.
It's wild. I've gotten publishing on some hip hop stuff where I'm just like, I pretty much just edited vocals and added some drums, and they're like, cool, yeah, and you get 5%. I'm like, okay, I mean, I'll take it. But
I mean, it's a part of any trade of currency and copyright. Like, if there's no budget to pay you, then you're going to be offered this. I guess
that everything is negotiable.
Yes.
Potentially.
And I really like the clean lines. I like blurred lines too, obviously. But it's nice to know that when you're in a session there is an expectation of what's about to happen, and you go in knowing that, and then you can execute your position at the highest level of that. So now that can probably, for you, someone that has credits as a producer and as a writer, transfer over to maybe a producer there that's working on whoever it is. Say it's Casey Musgraves or something, and she obviously has people, whether it be Ian Fitzchuck or Sean Everett, who like work on all the music, and they're both super talented and whatever. Maybe they love your vibe so much that they ask to have you come in now and help on the production of the song. That is then a bonus, right? On top of the fact that you are now a songwriter on a Casey Musgraves record, right? Like, there's levels to this, and people are happy to attain whatever they're lucky to be captured for, whether it's songwriting or producing. Nashville seems a harder world to break into as a producer, and everyone's looking for some fresh perspective on songwriting down there, because there's a way it's been done down there for so long. I think now that they are looking for, and you can speak to this probably better than I with your conversations with your publishers, but they seem to also want to have artists cross over. So they're going to be more open to a little bit left of center writing from LA songwriters, from London songwriters, New York, little bit more out of the box from Nashville, but then maybe sprinkling in just a Nashville production on top of it. So it brings it home for the demographic that they know all so well. You know, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel too much down there, production sound wise.
It's a funny dance because it's both things, is what you're saying, which is on the one hand, and especially as royalty revenue streams change, people are very protective of, we don't want to just give away the master side. If I produce this artist, I'm not going to just bring in some dude from LA who's going to come in and take half of my royalty to co-produce. There's no if I don't have to do that, why would I do that? I don't need some dude from LA or New York or wherever coming in. I know how to write country songs. Why would I bring, if I'm going to work with these people, I want to write pop songs or crossover songs or something like that. I'm trying to be very mindful of that. And at the same time, there are people who, you know, we really want new ideas. We want to write to tracks. There's nobody who can make trap beats in the way that we like, or there's fewer of them in our circles, whether that's Nashville or just these people's circles. And so I've done a few sessions here where I'm like, we can do whatever. I've got tracks. I've got whatever. We can cook from scratch. We can play guitar, play piano. And a couple of the sessions I've played some tracks and they're like, we're writing to that. And if ultimately that means the song gets cut in a just purely country production, that's fine too. But I think, you know, part of, at least for me as a creative person, and you know, we just put up a clip on from the roundtable discussion about it. What I really like is doing lots of different things and being able to adapt in a room. I was telling somebody recently, I was talking to my management team here, that one of the things that I provided to pop songwriters back in the sort of early aughts, when everything was very all of a sudden everything became dance and track oriented, that like Katy Perry, Teenage Dream era, a lot of 128 BPM, a lot of tracks, that all these pop songwriters were going into sessions and producers just played tracks, and they never really had that before, and they were all sick of it. But you come into my studio and I got a 1902 piano and a bunch of guitars. I'm like, we can do whatever. And they always wanted to write on piano. That's how In the Name of Love was written, just like guitar, keyboards, whatever, not playing tracks. So I'm always really mindful that I really enjoy, again, what about the process do you enjoy? I enjoy going into a place and people going, what do you do? And I go, what can I provide for you? I can play you tracks and do whatever. And then they get to choose what feels interesting to them. So in some of these sessions, I got a session in an hour, and it's with an artist and a writer. And I don't know if we're going to be on acoustic guitar, or I'm going to play him tracks or whatever. Nashville's really interesting in that there's a way that things are done. And in Nashville, it's certainly, you know, there's a long tradition of the way things are done, and I'm super mindful of it. And yet people are excited to do things slightly differently. So it is this dance of like, you know, what do we want to do today? How does it feel? What can I provide? I'm not going to come in and be like, hey guys, I got a song about a truck. Like, I'm not that asshole. Like, I'm not going to come. It's just idiotic. That's not what I'm here to do. But so figuring out that dance is, I think, really important.
It also seems like something you want to always do differently. Like keep yourself on your toes, and you're the proponent of the get out of the comfort zone, while I'm the proponent of I like flowing in the comfort zone to a degree. Yeah. But I also there's a level of musicianship that Nashville seems to breed, and you could probably argue there's in Memphis, just like Southern rootsy.
Nashville's crazy.
You know,
musicianship is crazy here.
Musicianship, right? So there's that level of like, well, if you're in a writing session, maybe you're not the best in the room.
I'm definitely not the best in the room most of the time. Somebody comes in writing melodies and top line, and they can clearly play guitar better. It's really interesting.
Right, but what I'm saying is like, then that's again, it's another way to just kind of relieve the position of like, this is for someone else to do. Let me do what I do best. You know, I'm like on a side note, I'm mixing this French artist right now. And the production is so like indie French. I don't know if like people are familiar with that sound, but to me, it's a very homey feeling. Like I really like indie tight drum French thing. I don't know what they're saying. But then there's this Nashville bus that just has banjo and mandolins and pedal steels and lap steels. And they went to, and it says Nashville on the thing. Like they even told me in the email, hey, we'll send you the session as soon as we get back the parts from Nashville. You know, so it's in this ingrained feeling of musicianship and musicality down there that you could then cross-pollinate, right? So they're doing it in Paris. We're doing it in LA. Every now and then you'll just hear a pedal steel. Besides an acquaintance of mine, Rich Hinman, who is a fantastic guitar player and lap steel player that I've recorded up here. Like, I don't know anybody that does lap steel in LA. He's kind of the guy. He's unreal. And there's something about that. They're like, well, why are we trying to reinvent this thing? So bring someone like Matt, or, you know, someone like one of my best friends, Tyler Johnson, who now lives in Nashville. He goes back and forth. It's like, well, he brings something different, but understanding that level of musicality, how to utilize that becomes another form of instrumentation as a producer, as a writer, is really diving deep into, well, what can we do? Because it's going to make you think differently about what a production is, right? You're not going to just be like, let's put a fucking synth on this. It's like, well, actually with this melody, right? And then that goes into another whole topic that I was talking to Tyler about, and I don't.
By the way,
shout
shout out
at dinner.
to Tyler and having a #1. Congratulations!
Dude, debut at #1. Fuck! I'm just so proud of that dude.
He's also beating me in chess right now, so I'm
nice.
like, I have mixed feelings about him. No, he's killing it, man. That song is so good.
You know, happy to be a part of it in some way with the Atmos spatial
Atmos,
audio
right.
mix. You know, Mike Miller and I got to be attached to that in some degree. It's a very confusing feeling for me. It's just like, you know, debut at #1. Yay, I did the Atmos mix. It's like, I want to be stoked about the fact that that happened. But like, unless I did both the stereo and Atmos, it doesn't quite feel like that's, you know, that's also my #1 debut. It feels a little bit weird. And for mixers, like I kind of want to keep this more about Nashville and songwriting.
Let's go. Let's talk about Nashville and songwriting.
But I also
shout out Tyler.
No, I know, but I'm also kind of in that headspace right now about like the confusion. So like, as mixers are reading this and as watching this, and there's something going on right now that I don't understand, and a lot of mixers don't understand like what that actually means. And there will be 2 mixers or 4 mixers, depending on the co-mix, on songs that are there, and it's very hard to feel like. Anyway, that's another topic. But yeah, so I don't know where that song was written. That could have been written in Nashville. You know, like they worked in Nashville on some things. They worked in Malibu they worked in London. Like that, who knows what vibe, what inspiration comes from being in a place where you have access to musicians at a different level. I'm thinking about harmonic content of like how you write a melody over an existing track that has melody already in it, right? So if you program a track and you have a melody, like the best example for me in this is Stay. Like the melody for Stay that Leroy sings over his verse and the chorus part is the Charlie Puth keyboard part. So like, did that happen at simultaneously? I doubt that. I think the piano, from what I've heard, I think he played the keyboard part, and then Leroy quickly started singing to it. Yes. So that melody would not have been written, have that harmonic addition been in there. Very, very. I mean, obviously, you can't say it would never. There's no 100% accuracy. That was the genesis of it. Yeah. But when you think about the Beach Boys or Michael Jackson writing over, or Elton John, another, you know, and Stevie Wonder, these like the people that voice their melodies. I'm making fingers as a piano, but I'm doing it low, so no one can see. I know what you meant. They work on their melody based on the chords that are being played, and they change the chords to see how the melody interacts. That's not something, it's not possible to do that over a track. It's just not the same thing, naturally speaking, as a songwriter. So in Nashville, with musicians in the room that are playing guitar or piano or Rhodes or some keyed instrument while writing a melody, you're definitely going to get different instinctual changes and pitch differences that you wouldn't get having harmonic content that is linear and theoretically can't be changed on the fly. So I'm assuming that Nashville has more of that, just based on the fact that there are instruments being played in the room while this is happening. Well, I could talk about this topic for the next 19 hours, so feel free to stop me, because I'm fascinated by this. Because as I said, I love being the producer in the room who can adjust and do something different for whatever's going to inspire the people around them. So I think I've written, you know, the songs that I've written that I think are really great, which is a low percentage. I mean, you know, written hundreds, if not thousands of songs. Songs are really great. I think they've basically come about
in almost every way you could think of. They've come about with, I have a word that I'm really into and a loose concept, and then we write from there. Here's a track that I made, and then somebody writes a vocal over it that imitates the something that's in the track. That's definitely happened. Writing a song where the vocal gets written and sung along before there's any chords. Somebody just starts singing, and then a song is built around it. Pure tracks of a chord progression, and people write a whole song over that progression. The great songs I've been a part of have happened in every one of those configurations. And it is a really interesting way to think about it. I think it's one of the reasons that a couple of my sessions last week, people really wanted to write over tracks, because when you have an existing track, it is limiting in a way that can be very interesting. You know, a lot of people try to write new chords to get out of, they're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's change the chords here because we're stuck. I'm almost always of the belief that if you're writing to a track or you're starting on something, that changing the chords is not going to make your melody better or not going to necessarily inspire something. But of course, it also does sometimes. I think oftentimes people try to make things more complicated because they don't like what they're doing. This is a very pop songwriter thing. People are always trying to do something more clever or more different or more strange. And that's usually never the answer. You got to kind of go more truthful and more confident and more real. But also it does work that way sometimes, where all of a sudden you do a tempo change and the like 1 out of 1,000 times that works, it's the greatest thing you've ever heard. Or you do a key change, or you do whatever. So there's one of the things I like so much about this process is that it actually can work in all these different ways, and it rarely becomes this magical moment, and you just don't know how it's going to get there. There's certainly things, I think, when people try to complicate stuff by adding more, it often doesn't make things better, but very occasionally it does. Most of the time it's, let's get more to the core of what we're trying to do emotionally and say it simply and say it confidently, and don't be afraid of how vulnerable and simple it is. But there's also crazy changes that happen too. I don't know. It's a fascinating process. Like I said, I think there's some of the Nashville stuff where people are like, because we're writing to tracks, we don't have the ability to go change a bunch of chords, and it causes us to color between the lines in a certain way that's exciting to people in Nashville who don't get to do that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely lots of ways to do it. I don't want to make it all about songwriting today. Do you want to jump into some questions? What are you feeling? There were a lot of good questions today. I actually hit the Discord like 10 minutes before we started and said, and you guys got anything? Because we got some good questions, but there's a lot of the same questions. And then we got a million questions from the Discord very quickly, which I love. The Discord's the best, by the way. I just ordered my new computer, and it was super helpful to ask all of the super nerds on the Discord, which version of the new MacBook Pro, what do I actually need? Because now there may be too much power in some of the new chips that I don't really need. So why pay the extra money? How much RAM? So it's really, really good for that. Let me see. One of the things which, and we've talked about mixed bus before, but somebody asked a question which I actually liked, which is, there's a way to answer it that's very straightforward, but then I think it would be cool for you and I to kind of wax poetic about it, which is talking about the mix bus and its purpose. Let's see, either Eric or Noah, something about using mix bus processing in your workflow. Is it important for making great mixes? And I think the quick answer is no, of course not, because you can make great mixes without it. But I believe it is the case that pretty much everybody has a mix bus that affects their sound in such a way that it is an essential part of almost, I would say, everybody. I don't know anybody who doesn't have like a setup. And obviously it's variable, you make some adjustments, but you, Baines, Tizio, Serban, everybody's got some configuration of mix bus stuff that they use, which adds some equalization, some harmonic, some compression limiting, something to it. So I think the answer is yes. I think everybody has a mix bus thing that they do. And you and I have talked about yours before, which changes over time. I never really thought about that as a concept, but I think everybody's kind of got their mix bus thing. Is that the case? Has it always been that way?
It's always,
what do you think about it?
It's always been a taste thing too, right? Like I basically give myself a handicap headed towards a sonic direction that my ears like to hear. on all genres of music. Nothing's too heavy-handed. Nothing's going to make or break the mix. So I don't. I wouldn't say that it's something I rely on. I could probably mix without it. It gets me to a desired result a little quicker. And that's something that just comes with practice and recognition of what tools get you somewhere that you want to be at. So I think everybody hears about the mix bus some way, whether it's from a friend, a mentor, a blog, a YouTube clip, Instagram, now with like engineers being out there and Pensato's place, like there's a mix with the masters. There's always a version of what's being described to us as like the new thing that you need on your mix bus. We can dispel
that real quick. Whatever the new thing is that you need, you don't actually need.
You don't need it, exactly.
But why do we have it?
We've talked about this on many occasions. I also went through it on my first live Twitch.
That's right. But just for the record,
I actually
YouTube.
went through why I'd have everything on it. So I'm not going to necessarily say it over again, but everything is very minimal and a way to get things to be louder and competitive and also to my taste. My taste tends to be a little bit warmer in the high mids, right? So in order to do that, I have some broad stroke control in that zone, not any like big giant reductions that scoop things out. I don't do a lot of giant scooping on buses or on the mix bus. I do them individually. I consider myself a mix engineer, so I hear everything separately as well as together, right? So when I want to make a big move, I do it on the thing itself. I don't want to affect it overall. So I would say that, yes, it should be something that you consider, that you work towards finding your version of it. Don't copy whatever you see. I had a really amazing moment the other day that someone shouted out the Just for the Record live Twitch thing that I was doing with a setting of the Faraday limiter that I use all the time and had nothing to do with my setting. It was just shout out like mixed by Jon Castelli for showing me this tool. And it looked nothing like what I would have done. I was like, yes. So people are finding the tool and using it their own way. If I saw it was exactly my setting, I'd be like, why? Like that's not going to make you hear things the way that you hear them. You're going to think you're doing something that I did and you're supposed to do. I got so excited when I saw the setting look completely different than mine. And I hope to see that more. I hope that people are taking what you and I are talking about, what I'm demonstrating monthly now, and copy it to a degree, but use it the way you hear. And it's the same thing with a mix bus. Every big mixer had a different compressor on their mix bus post the SSL days, right? Where everyone had the G comp on, Tony Maserati has his thing that he was doing. He might have 4 or 5 that he's going to try on a different mix. When I was working with him, he had 3 or 4 different mix bus compressors he would try on different genres. This
Eric
one had a more slower, a lot of people do that. So, it's not a one size fits all. I think most of what I use is one size fits all. It's very minimal. I'm not looking for like overall tonal changes on this that's like heavy-handed again. Like if you put an API mix bus compressor, it's very heavy-handed. It's a thing. It sounds aggressive. It's punchy. That might not work for a soft, slow R&B record, right? It just might not do the thing. So you're putting yourself in a box where you might lose the gig because you're just way too, it's not right for everything. So the things that I use on my mix bus tend to be right for almost everything to some degree. I don't know. I think it's something to shape. And
well, I like what you said, where you said it gets it competitively loud and gets it to your taste. And that's a really 2 important concepts, because the mix bus is very often what kind of saturation you use, a little clipper, or you're going to use compression, or you use a limiter, that sort of thing. Obviously, mastering engineer is going to do their version of that, depending on what your relationship is, how much you trust them, what their expectations are, what your communication is with them. You've obviously talked about your relationship with Dale, who's now been mastering some of my stuff. And I imagine he's doing different things to my mixes than he is to yours. The relationship is different.
I'm doing different things. Let me just jump in and say that normally, for example, I just use a clipper to get things leveled to where I think that they should be delivered. But on this record that I did yesterday, I used 2 limiters and a clipper, which is very rare for me, but I'll still do it. I'll still do the thing that if that's what it needs to be competitively loud and a bit more crunchy than I'm used to doing, like that's what the record needs. So that's what I did. I don't do that often, but I'm not afraid to do it. I'm not ashamed by it. I'm not like, the record needed what the record needed to be as loud as it wanted to be. And for someone that doesn't like things super loud all the time, I liked how loud it got, and I got a good feedback from it in my, my visceral response to it was like, oh, that feels right. And then the client was happy. It's like, well, that's something that is part of the process of learning what these tools do on the mix bus, right? So I knew how to achieve what I was going for, and it took a little bit more effort than I have on the past few mixes that I've been doing this week or last week. I mean,
I had a thought about, it's something that I've started doing more. I can always do more of it. And I think everybody, no matter what your level is, should do. And I think we don't all do it because we're so anxious about like getting to the finish line, getting things done. We're much more excited about actually making the things than taking the time to learn oftentimes. But I think anytime you get a new tool, especially something that you watch Jon Castelli's stream and he's using the spectral shaper in this way and it's subtly this much. If you want to try that, sure, start by setting it up as somebody else is doing it, and then really spend the time to listen, think about why it's doing it, how it might affect your mixes positively or negatively, and then play with it and make it more extreme and really spend the time to listen and play with it. I love what you said about the Faraday limiter, which is something that I love. And I think you and I can't remember if it was offline or online, but you and I talked about it at one point, and I was using it differently than you were using it. And it's a great tool. Taking these, when you see people who you respect as a mixer, as a record maker, whatever, play with the things that they're doing, but then explore all of the directions of it and all of the limits of it, because that's how you're going to learn the most. Because, we talk about often how we probably wouldn't recommend for most people to go to recording engineer school or songwriting school or production school. But the thing that school is good for is it'll slow you down and force you to do repetitions in a way that if you're just doing it for funsies, which is what you should be doing for the most part, it's hard to slow down and go, oh my God, I got this new compressor. It sounds so good. I'm going to use the Jon Castelli setting. And then you don't actually explore it and learn why it's great and adjust it, because whatever Jon is doing on the mix bus or whatever I'm doing on my vocal compression or whatever it is an accumulation of other things that cause that to work for us. And by the way, we probably change it 2 months later anyway, but you should take the things that you hear, that you see on YouTube videos or whatever, and go, okay, this is how they're using it. This is, I think, why they're using it. Now let me see all the things it can do, because that will cause you to really learn it deeply and then apply it in a way that's more appropriate for you.
I want to comment on Mike Miller saying, what did he just say? He started using Gulf Floss at 200% thanks to you, and now my mixes are smacking. I just want to shout out Gulf Floss for giving me a special version of Gulf Floss that now goes to 400%. So Mike Miller, I'm sorry, but my mixes are going to smack even more than yours, because obviously you now have my sauce. So I got you again.
It's great. I love it. And
I always call it Gulf Floss, and Graham corrected me, and it's Gulfoss. So I've been saying Gulf Floss. So I think my 400% version should be called Gulf Floss.
Well, you're using Gulf Floss. Everybody else is Gulf. I don't.
Yeah, it's Gulf Floss. Gulf Floss, but I call it Gulf Floss, and I don't know why. But I'm going to keep calling it that because it's funny.
That's fantastic. Yeah,
I think it's all about taste. We talk about this all the time. I want to really reiterate how excited I was when I saw that plugin. I forgot who it was that tagged me in it. I was so stoked that they were so happy with the way they made it. They made something sound with that tool, and it looked nothing like what I did. I don't know if they started where I had it. I don't fucking care. I'm just stoked that someone used the tool that comes highly regarded, and they did their thing with it. And that makes me so excited, because I just see so much copying. And when I see a session, I just see the same shit. Like, option dragged to everything. Just like, that's not how music is made. We don't option drag every fucking thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well,
I have a mix that I'm doing right now, this French thing that has no plugins on so many things because these people are so good at recording. It just sounded good. What am I supposed to do to it? Like, make it worse because I feel like I'm supposed to option drag this thing over to it. One of the best quotes I've seen on this engineer's Instagram is from a Manny Marroquin quote that said, like, the hardest thing to do to a sound is leave it alone, or something. I'm probably paraphrasing. It's like, mixing is, whatever. You guys can look up their Instagram. But sometimes, and Tony ingrained that in me all the time. Like, I would have chains and chains of plugins, and he would spend the time on every sound that I touched if I was starting a mix for him, if we were co-mixing something, and he would just bypass all of them. And he wouldn't even look at me. He would just like take them all off and then use how it was and leave it alone. It was like the biggest flex I've ever seen and witnessed. And I'm like, it does sound better. Like, what was I even thinking? And he didn't shame me. He didn't make me feel bad. He just didn't use the stuff.
You don't need all that.
You don't need all that. Sounded good. And then he would like grab a fader and start riding the fader. Be like, fuck you, man. Like, fuck, you're just going off after volume. He hears the music in it, the motion and things. Right. And, anyway, that's it.
It's a variation of many probably Zen Buddhist quotes and things, but the Miles Davis quote, which is, it's not about the notes, it's about the space between the notes.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite quote.
So good.
That's how I feel about groove. It's the space between the drums. It's not all about the subdivision. It's the space between the parts. That's arrangement. That's how we hear records. That's how things don't start sounding monotonous and ubiquitous. It's like, how do we get something to feel like something that you're captivated by, you're living in for, whether it's a minute and a half to 4 minutes, whatever a song length is, that you're held in there. That's groove. That's the space. That's what holds you. It holds the mystery into the next part. If it starts to become predictable, you go to the next track. Like, I've already heard that one. Almost. All right, I don't need to hear that again.
Absolutely. I want to give a shout out to the chat real quick, who's they're answering questions for other people that are new to the streams, questions we've answered before, things. I appreciate the chat for helping people out. It's just like the Discord. We're trying to just have a situation where we don't have to repeat ourselves. You guys got the knowledge and you guys are helping each other out. It makes me really happy to see. So we don't even have to address questions. I wanted to jump off what you said there about talking about the Faraday limiter and then watching someone else do it in a way you wouldn't have expected. This is why collaboration and sharing knowledge is so great. I was thinking about this duo called the Frost Children that are two friends of mine in New York who are amazing. They just put out an album, I think Friday. It's fantastic. You guys should all go check it out. The Frost Children, Angel and Lulu, who are incredible. I remember being with them in New York and trying to just like show them things that I was doing. And there's this one crazy plugin that somebody made as part of the Native Instruments Forum community that's in Reactor, and it's called like X12 something. It's just a sound generator. I wish I had the name of it on me. But there's no MIDI control. It just makes crazy sounds. You twist knobs and it does wild shit. And I've used it for sampling, for making sweeps, for doing just weird shit. And I gave it to them, or showed it to them, sent them the Reactor file, and immediately Lulu put it up, made some crazy noise, put an LFO over it, and immediately did things with this tool that I love that I never would have done otherwise. And this is like one of the many reasons to share, and collaborate. I love how much in the engineering community you're doing stuff with, you and Mike Miller doing stuff together. We have Baines and Tizio and Matt Beckley and Kean. We're chatting, we're sharing ideas in the production world, in the songwriting world. It is the way that we all get better and improve our skills and get the joy of doing new things. So it applies across the board. And I always want to hammer that home because it made me think of that moment. I remember watching Lulu do this crazy shit with the sound. And I was just like, I've used this for like 8 years. I never would have done that. And now I have to do it all the time. And what else have I not been doing? And how can I apply the tools that they're using to other stuff that I'm doing? It's endlessly inspiring to share the things that you know and then watch other people run with it.
I want to just apologize. My chat froze about 10 minutes ago, so people are interacting in the chat. I'm not seeing it again. It happens all the time to us for some reason.
It's fine. They're doing fine in there. They're not. It's not Lord of the Flies yet. They're not eating each other. It's mostly
Okay,
just love and jokes.
Yeah.
Let's see. What other questions? I really like this question. You know, I never can tell how much we should be talking about whatever we want versus like trying to give game to people. I love this question. Noah asked, what things have you not done yet that you still want to do? Music or just in general? And I think that's a great question because I was just talking about this because I'm here with the Nashville office of my publisher, Nashville office of management. So it's a lot of like, what do I want to do? What can I contribute? I think the only thing that I haven't done career-wise yet is I haven't gotten something that I've developed to really pop off. It's the only thing, you know, I haven't had Billboard #1. I've had a #2, and I've had some platinum things, and I've had a billion. I've had a bunch of really amazing things, but there's something about, you know, I made records with my friends growing up. Things got record deals. They never became huge global cultural things, but that was kind of like that was an early big moment for me. I've been a part of a lot of big things that other people kind of spearheading. I've developed a lot of things, but none of them have really super popped. So I think, you know, I think that's the only thing left where I want to see something and help really incubate something and get it to that place where they really go have a big career. I've certainly been involved with developing a lot of things. None of them have super popped off. So in terms of music, that's the only thing I really want to do. In terms of life, at some point have a family. That's the only thing really left for me. It's really those two. I want to mentor and birth things into the world, literally and musically.
You will.
I think I will do both.
Your head's in that space, and you're still so young that'll definitely happen. Both of those things are going to happen for you without a doubt.
What do you think? Do you have career things?
Yeah, my easy answer is I want to live in another country at some point. Which is very hard for me in the position that I'm in right now mentally. Like, you know, still being really hungry to get mixed work and like serious FOMO on projects, and I'm just not there yet. But I want to live in Paris for like an extended period of time, and comfortably so, and not worrying about you know, am I going to miss the deadline because I'm 9-hour time difference or something like that. I think it's possible to go there and mix records. I wouldn't go there and not work on music. I don't like that's not in the equation. I still would want to have like a mobile setup, maybe different than my spot here. But I'd like to live there for an extended period of time. And I've thought about that since I was a kid. So that's something I haven't done yet. Career-wise, well, besides an Atmos mix, I haven't had a #1 Billboard either. I've had a #2. I just did an Atmos mix for a #1, so it feels questionable. But being officially tied to the record 100%, I haven't had that. I'd like that. I constantly think that is a negative, or can be considered to the self as a negative motivator, because I don't want to like constantly be chasing those. I think that if I get to, if my end goal is to have a chance to live in Paris, I can't wonder if I'm going to have those or not. I have to be okay with missing a Rihanna call, you know, like not that, you know, that's the one that comes to mind. Like, if I'm being honest, it's like, not that I would get the Rihanna call. I'm not like tight with the team that does Rihanna,
but that level of thing means something. Yeah.
Yeah. And like the excitement of what that means to like be away, you know, and then like, you can always just fly back is the answer. I'm like, my brain doesn't like make sense. Like, oh, next day ticket, $3,000. It doesn't make sense to my brain. Even if I had the money, that would be like I'm sure people relate to that. It's just like not really what? Okay. That's not where I come from. So I don't understand that. Like I theoretically could afford it, but like what that would mean. So my brain runs a little bit on fear of that occurring. So maybe now that I'm talking out loud about it openly, maybe the career goal is to care less about missed opportunities at some point. That sure as hell is not happening this year. And I'm really hungry right now for records, for big records and just records that I like. But I don't know. I'd like to get a number one that like it sounds, like when I had Talk for Khalid, like that was a number two, and it sounded exactly like I wanted it to sound. Though I want that alignment often. I think just if I were to get a number one and it didn't sound like the way I wanted it to sound, based on whatever reasons, I don't think I'd be as stoked just to be like, oh, I got a number one. I'd like the alignment of aesthetically and the team, it all lined up to be something. So that's what I crave. I crave that continuity and vision and being a part of a record that is, transcendent of whether it's a great song, mix, production, and just a great record. And, that's what I crave that. So more of those.
The reason I like this topic is because we emphasize so much. It's the process, trying to hit, the people we know that have had number one songs, and then when you hang out with them or talk to them, they're always like anxious they don't currently have it or they don't have the next one or whatever, and that's a terrible place to be in. But it also doesn't mean that it's not good to have goals or things that you want to do.
Yes.
And it's also okay. The richness of life is about the contradictions that we feel. I simultaneously want to have the biggest records in the world, but then also not care about that and only do things that I love, and that's all that matters. And then if those things are huge, then that's great. But none of us are purely that, or I've rarely met people like that. And it's a challenge. These things contradict each other. I want to have success. I want to have chart success, because what that means is the things I'm doing people really like, and generally the stuff that is the biggest are also things that I'm proud of. There's certainly things that I'm more and less proud of, but generally the things that I really love, that I'm really invested in, that I think are great, have the highest percentage chance of being big hits in some capacity. Totally. But it's an interesting thing, and some of them do contradict, and I don't want to be someone that's like, I need this. Like, I think, and I love that, all of you guys, everybody, lots of people getting nominated. Keane won a Grammy. I'm so proud of everybody. I also just don't care at all. Like, if it's going to really bum people out, if I ever get nominated for Grammy, it just doesn't matter. Like, trophies for art, we've talked about this before. Like, it's not important to me. I do want 1 billion people to stream a song that I worked on, because that means a whole bunch of people like it. Music is this beautiful art form where if you make something that a whole lot of people like, it's going to be successful because a whole lot of people are going to seek it out and listen to it. But all these things contradict. And I think, I guess I think it's a great question, because these things are a little contradictory. No matter where you are in your career, well, you're going to have that like FOMO. You're going to have that, I wish I had the song that was that big, or you have your first hit that comes out and some other thing beats it and it only gets to this number. And, all those things are totally reasonable to feel and have them contradict. I think it's okay, but it's a weird feeling.
I'm very into the concept of peer reviewed. So when I think about the Grammy, my difference in how you view it and how I view it is very simple, that I still think it's tight to, like, the 1 billion streams could correlate to the Grammy, right? Like, you kind of can't get one without the other a lot of the times.
Which is part, keep going. Yeah.
But if the Academy, that should be, whether it is or not, we're working towards that, be, a representation of our peer community of people that make records, are the ones that theoretically should be voting. And they pick to recognize, whether it's a nomination or a win, to me, they're about the same, because the trophy for art doesn't really make any sense. I do want one. I'll be transparent. I want one. Just basically for my mom and dad. And I would like to have it. I don't know where I'd put it. Probably wouldn't be on display, but I'd put it somewhere probably. Maybe in the bathroom, who knows? And I think that getting recognized for projects, whether it's a whole project, album, song, whatever, that you and a ton of your friends and people that you know and peers worked on, is very valuable. So if our version of it is this peer-reviewed academy, then I think there should be more weight to what that means. And I think politically speaking, there are wrongs being done in there that from the language and the emails that I've been receiving from the Academy. They're trying to change things like that. from the inside out with new people. I hope in our lifetime that this becomes less politicized and more merit-based and very peer-reviewed from our true peers. Like, I think that if I would imagine someone like you being important to the Academy, your perspective on this moving forward, and mine as well. Like, I want to be, I want to grow into being more like Jeff Giddy is really involved. Dale Becker's getting really involved. Omos Keith for years has been really involved. These are like proponents of great music and community that are trying to get themselves into positions of power for the right reasons. I don't want to discount it fully. Do I think that you can't get work and hired if you don't have any? That's completely not facts. But I do think recognizing and celebrating our peers is what we all want to do. And that is a very large way to do it. On a grand stage that, you know, look at Jean Baptiste, who won Album of the Year, who surprised a lot of people with the wins. It's because he actually has fans that are stoked for his musicality, musicianship, that he's worked towards this moment and he's become recognized for it. Now he beat me in the category, right? And I'm still like, I understand what happened there. Like, I respect what happened because he did all the right things. And stars aligned for him, whatever that means. So I think recognition is cool. I think keeping our head down is cool too, and acting like that, like we don't care about that. On to the next, always. That's the way we're going to be, no matter what. Like, if we think that we get a Grammy or a #1 song and we're going to stop after it, then we're not in it for the right reasons. It's never going to happen. No one I know ever would be like that. So a little recognition and celebration along the way never hurt anybody.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't disagree philosophically. I think you're absolutely right that peer recognition is really important. I think, you know, if it adjusts in such a way that kind of the politics and outreach and the genres that don't get the shine, and it's a little less secretive, and maybe there's a way. I think for me, I'm good with seeing the numbers of fans that listen to things, and then people like you, when I send you a mix, you go like, "This sounds great." That's good for me. But I think you're absolutely right that having, you know, when I talked to Lucas Keller on here a few weeks ago, my manager, about streaming service stuff, he was saying that the Recording Academy does lots of other things besides the Grammys that are really important for making sure people get paid. And there's music cares, there's health insurance, there's all kinds of great stuff that the Academy does. So I certainly, and fundamentally, and I will say this and always say this, I never want to take anything away from anyone who's making stuff and putting out in the world. I think that's the most incredible thing. And when someone like Baptiste wins, I think that's beautiful. And it's something that people wouldn't have expected. And it's not necessarily the guy who's having the #1 songs. And I think those things are great. So I certainly don't want to take it away from anybody. It's just not on my list of things. But I do have lists of things that I want to do. Like I said, I think it's a good topic that, you know, you can have goals, and as long as it's not like my whole reason for making music is to get some number or to get some award or something like that. I think that's an inverted list of priorities, but it's totally reasonable to have goals and things like that. So I thought that was a good question. Shout out Noah, my old friend, who asked that question on the Discord. A few minutes left. There's lots of good questions. I thought this may be an interesting topic, and I'll speak to it from the producer standpoint, and then maybe you can just speak on what you're hearing. I don't know how much you think about this, but Will asked, what are your general philosophies on tuning vocals? And the answer to that, of course, is it's everything from no tuning to tons of tuning. And how, I guess the interesting line for me is, and I'll speak on this project that I'm working on right now, the interesting line is, how much are you trying to correct things that are out of pitch so that they're in tune versus use tuning as a creative tool? It's almost like compressing the pitch of a vocal. You could almost think of it that way. Like when I listen to that Rosalia album, which I'm still obsessed with, there's so much cool vocal production stuff on there. And not that all the ideas are brand new, but the idea of she's singing something that has no tune, it's really beautiful. And then the next line is the auto tune goes to 0 on the retune speed, so fastest speed, just for that moment to have that. And this project I'm working on right now, the artist hit me a couple of days ago. It was like the 5th song we worked on. And she was like, can you take the whole bridge and just tune it like crazy and make it more distorted and more fucked up by the end and maybe build it to that? And using auto-tune as a tool, not just as here's the sound of the record. It has X amount of auto-tune on it, but where we want to put flourishes, what do you want it to feel like emotionally? I think people are expanding as they always are, expanding as we talked about before, the use of the tools in ways that people haven't used them before. Auto-tune has obviously been used in all these ways we're talking about, but when somebody says, what's your general philosophy for tuning vocals? I will subtly tune vocals sometimes. I'll go super ham sometimes. I will, depending on what the artist wants to do. I mean, I'm obsessed still with the Dylan Brady stuff. The 100 Gex just put out a new song last night. I hope their new album comes soon. The new Charlie XCX album. There's lots of interesting vocal stuff being done that I don't think anybody was doing 10 years ago, let alone 5 years ago. And now it's just part of how people are making vocals sound. What are we going to do with putting microshift or Ubermod or these things that expand the stereo spectrum but make things blurry, but then you turn them up and tune them and they have, I don't know. What are you hearing in terms of you're getting lots of songs coming through?
All of what you said.
Yeah, all of the stuff.
All of what you
tendencies, said. What do you find interesting?
And I have zero feelings about it.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it is.
If it works, it works.
It is. If it works, it works. And that's kind of, we can talk about autotune, but like just any tool that does a thing, intensely, like use it that way to a degree, build to it in a bridge, have a scene change. I'm mixing this thing that's kind of like has an Amy Winehouse flair to it. And I wanted to do a parallel distortion on a thing. And, it's a little too heavy handed for the producer, but I did this thing where I just like, overdrove a parallel distortion on the lead vocal and only sent that to the delay. So he was like, oh, but those effect moments that you did there, like, let's use those. It's like, all right, well, we just collaborated, right? I did this whole distorted 50s thing, but instead we only used it in the bridge and certain moments of flair that happened there, right? We probably wouldn't have come to that if we didn't try it all the way and overcook it. Same thing with the autotune. If an artist wants to hear it that way, it might just stay. Those Rosalia moments might be happenstance, right? Maybe she sung out of tune there and she couldn't get back in the studio to recut it yet. And she was like, well, what if we just try this? And it just sounded so fucking cool.
Totally.
And she's like, let's just leave it.
Yeah.
Who knows how it gets there? So to judge it for any other reason except for it's there, sounds like a waste of time to me. It's a fucking cool move. And however it got there, it happened. I would say, there's no reason to overthink any of these things when you're in the room, because we have these tools. No one's not heard it before. So no one's gonna be like, ew, that's not cool. It's like, no, it's fucking tight because someone decided to do it, right? And that's what's cool, is the decision making to leave it, to use it, to take it there. I think that's what's cool about it and what you're reacting to.
And I think the last thing I'll say about tuning, and we'll call it for the day, I've done another great hour, is that tuning a vocal does two things philosophically. It takes out the I would say the humanity of the natural pitch that, like, if you tune something really hard, it pulls out some of the human feel of what somebody's naturally going to do singing. If you're actually putting auto-tune at the fastest retune speed, you're not going to get the swoops in and out. You're not going to get variation in pitch. But what it then does is it gives you the opportunity to do way crazier shit with other aspects, like the performance. One of the things that tune is so great for is that a singer can just give 100% effort into the performance and intensity of something, and then you can tune it after. Or if you have a super tuned vocal, you can get away with more detuned guitars and synths that wobble and have LFOs in the pitch because the tune of the vocal is so perfect. So making those adjustments. The other thing that I actually did recently, I've started, if I'm having a super tuned vocal, but I want doubles on it, because if you just super tune one vocal and then have left and right, double, triple, and they're super tuned, they're going to phase and get weird. Sometimes it's a cool sound, but oftentimes you don't want it. So I'll actually hard tune these and pitch one down a few cents and the other one up a few cents. Yes. And then the phase isn't as intense. You can obviously do things like that with microshift and doubler and some of these other things. But so
creative tools.
Yes, the more you tune, the more think of it as a contrast to all the other things you're doing, and there's like just unlimited potential for shit you can do. Another great live, John.
Love it. So fun.
Thank you for making it happen a half an hour earlier. Shout out to the Discord as always. And I'll see you again.
Have fun in Nashville.
I think next week should work. We might have to adjust the time again, but
just let me know.
We'll make it happen. Love you, my friend.
Love you too.
Bye, guys.